Roaring Moon is finally getting another suspect test in Gen 9 OU. This really should not come as a surprise, given how polarizing this Pokemon is in the Gen 9 OU metagame, especially lately in SPL. It has pulled off a lot of sweeps, but this Pokemon has been very strong for a while now. It got suspect tested back in the DLC 1 metagame and got banned due to knockoff being added to its arsenal. And it got unbanned with the addition of DLC 2. And now it's getting another suspect test. So we're gonna go over why this is the case and what makes this Pokemon really strong, especially lately, and if I think it will be banned or not. Roaring Moon is one of the tier's most dangerous sweepers thanks to its amazing 139 base attack stat, 119 base speed stat, and also having decent bulk on top of that, especially on the special side. And it has a great typing both offensively and defensively. Not to mention its move pool. You got Step Knockoff, you got Acrobatics, which synergizes perfectly with Boost the Energy, which also synergizes perfectly with Photosynthesis. You send this Pokemon out, you get an instant 30% attack boost, and Acrobatics is now 110 base power. This gives it great coverage against Pokemon that could check it, like Great Tusk, Zamazenta, and also hit Pokemon like Ogerpon Wellspring for super effective damage. With Knockoff and Acrobatics, it can hit most of the tier for neutral damage alone, but it also has Earthquake as a coverage option, which allows it to hit Pokemon that could survive those moves like Kingambit, Raging Bolt, and Iron Threads. Nowadays, Roaring Moon cannot effortlessly just spam flying type attacks and sweep many teams. However, innovation has made this Pokemon a very big threat recently, which is very noticeable in high level play. Roaring Moon has been using a lot of Terra Fairy recently, with Terra Blast as well, which allows it to hit Pokemon that could easily check it, like Great Tusk and Ting Lu with Terra Blast. It can also forgo Terra Blast and use its very defensive typing to flip matchups against threats like Zamazenta, Iron Valiant, and Great Tusk as well. Not to mention also still being a great Pokemon by using Terra Flying and Terra Ground too. Terra Ground can easily break past Conflable, for example, while Terra Flying still is able to deal with Great Tusk, and even Terra Ghost can be used to threaten Corviknight, and we've even seen Terra Water allows it to deal with Landorstarian while also being able to counter Golden Co. This versatility just has made Roaring Moon very difficult to predict and counter effectively, and especially with bulkier Dragon Dances, also seeing a rising usage, it can easily take advantage of those Pokemon, allowing it to set up multiple Dragon Dances with ease and sweep the team after. A very cool tech that has been used in a recent tournament game was Roaring Moon with a Fairy Terror typing, using of course Terra Blast, but using Rest plus Chesto Berry and not even using the boosted energy, which was probably not, it was not even needed in that game, but it was still cool to see that being used and actually win the game. Being said, while Roaring Moon is a very dangerous sweeper and can sweep a lot of teams with not a lot of effort, it is not unstoppable. The rise of Petrond is not great for Roaring Moon, as both Malignant Chain and Fall Play can disrupt it, depending on if it has used Terror or not. Additionally, priority moves are very common in the metagame, and Roaring Moon is very weak to those due to its low defense stat. For example, Dragonite Extreme Speed and Kingambit Sucker Punch can revenge kill this Pokemon. Weavile has seen a rise of usage due to Roaring Moon being so good, as it can use Ice Shard to KO most Terra types of Roaring Moon. If it doesn't Terra type, it's still weak to Ice Shard. Ground Terra and Flying Terra are also both weak to Ice Shard. Roaring Moon is also a victim of 4 moves lost syndrome, as it would love to run Dragon Dance, Knockoff, Earthquake, Acrobatics, Terra Blast, Brick Rake, Roost, and Taunt into a single set. But since it cannot do that, it does make it vulnerable to specific matchups. While bulkier sets are quite good, they do lose to more speed control options like Booster Energy Iron Valiant and Photosynthesis Walking Wake. Not to mention Booster Energy Iron Mod with Dazzling Gleam. Though these are not reliable forms of offensive speed control, since it can be quite tough to see initially how much speed Roaring Moon has. The slower Roaring Moon sets can even have a good matchup against faster Pokemon, as it can For example, a Tinkaton could be faster than a bulky Roaring Moon and could try to go for an Encore while it tries to set up a Dragon Dance. But if Roaring Moon is slower, the Encore will fail and can just easily set up a Dragon Dance and KO it with an Earthquake after, for example. All in all, Roaring Moon is very unpredictable, which makes it very difficult to prepare for. And depending on matchup, it can easily win on team preview. There's no real true counter to this Pokemon that makes it very difficult to play against. I also want to point out the usage stats of SPL from these past few weeks. These are the overall usage stats. If you look at the general usage stats, you can see Roaring Moon is at the number 8 right now with a 21.27% usage rate with a almost 55% win rate. So still a positive win rate. With a Pokemon used this much, it's bound to have a win rate like this, so not too surprising. If you look at the Terastallization usage stats though, these are very interesting, I think. You see Terra Fairy is the most used Terra type overall. But if you look here, you got Roaring Moon, which is the most common user of Terra Fairy, using it 12 times as of now. 75% win rate. That's very high. I mean, if you look at all of these Pokemon that use Terra Fairy, I mean, some of them have like a 100% win rate, right? But you have a Pokemon that uses 12 times, 75% win rate. That's stupidly high. If you look at Roaring Moon overall, you can see all the Terra types used and how much. You can see Terra Fairy, of course, 12 times. All of these Terra types here, Flying, Ground, Ghost, and Water, together also, if you combine them, also use 12 times. So the Roaring Moon uses Terra Fairy just as much as it uses all of these combined. And you can see the win rate here as well. Terra Fairy, a significantly higher win rate than both Flying and Ground. I mean, these have 100%, but they've only, Ghost and Water have only been used 2 times and 1 time respectively. So that really goes to show how terrifying these Terra Fairy sets are and how they can just dismantle opposing teams. Personally, I think this Pokemon should be banned. I never liked playing against it. I never felt that I deserved a win when I used Roaring Moon to sweep the enemy team. There is a Roaring Moon set for every team, which makes it super scary to play against. I don't think that's healthy at all when you're dependent on the opposing Roaring Moon set to whether or not you have a chance against it. Being able to get a 30% instant attack boost just by switching in, it's cheap. Let's just say it's cheap. Terra makes this Pokemon super difficult to play against. Yet another Pokemon that abuses Terra to its max. I mean, I would rather ban Terra. I think this would fix a lot with this Pokemon and many other Pokemon like it. But I doubt that Terra is gonna get banned, especially at this stage in the metagame. You know, makes sense, I guess, because Terra is the defining aspect of Gen 9. It's the whole identity. But if we're not gonna ban Terra, at least ban Moon. So yeah, I don't really have a lot to say, but I think it should have been suspect tested a long time ago. It's good to see it at least being suspect tested now. Better late than never, right? So yeah, that's Roaring Moon. Do you think Roaring Moon should be banned? Let me know down below in the comments. And I'll see you next time.